Hello everyone, I'm Ian from Creative Visuals, and today I'm going over part 2 of my Autel Evo review, and that is what I really like about the Autel Evo. If you missed part 1, check it out here. It was exactly what I do not like about the Autel Evo, so the exact opposite of this video. And luckily this video is much longer because there are a lot of things I really like about this drone. So without any further ado, let's get into this video. Okay, so let's kick things off properly for a camera drone review with what I like about the camera. So starting off here, I really like 4K at 60 frames per second. And I know some people may think, what the heck do you need high frame rate video for when you're shooting with a drone? And the answer is quite a few case scenarios, this can actually really help. So for me, a lot of the times I like just getting as much footage I can in a flight. And by using 4K 60p, I can just fly over things much faster and less cinematic than I normally would. And as long as I'm using the correct shutter speed to get the right motion blur with my frame rate, I can then slow it down to 30 or 24 frames per second. If you want to learn more about that, check out this video where I go over drone tips to help you get cinematic shots. Moving on to the second thing that I really like about the Autel Evo, and that is that wide field of view. Now, those wide, dramatic drone shots just look amazing, and the Autel Evo has a really wide field of view. Coming from DJI drones, I noticed this immediately, and I actually really enjoy it. You just get so much more in the frame, and then you can crop and post because the 4K is just so sharp in this drone. I really like it, and that brings me to the bit rates. So it shoots at 100 megabits per second in the H.265 or H.264 codec. The H.265 codec is what I'm really impressed about. Basically, you get the same quality as H.264, but with half the file sizes. Now, this is very helpful when you're shooting in, well, high frame rate, high resolution combos like 4K at 60 frames per second. It does use a lot more processing power from your computer to edit it, but it saves you so much storage space that I find myself shooting in it a lot, as you get the same or even more detail in some situations by using this codec, but you have smaller file sizes. There's really no downside to it other than, well, the processing power. Moving on, I really like the log. Now this is a true log. When you grade it, you can tell that it's a true log profile. And you get a lot of dynamic range, which is another thing that I really like about the Evo. For only a 1/2/3 inch sensor, it has a lot of dynamic range. At f2.8, it lets a decent amount of light in for the size of sensor. It's not going to be best for low light. I would recommend getting a 1-inch sensor model if you want to shoot low light footage, but it's not bad. And for what it is, I haven't seen too many other sensors of this size shoot this type of quality with the amount of dynamic range that I've seen on the Evo, even shooting without log. So with log, you're going to see a lot of dynamic range. It actually blows me away how much I can get out of this small sensor. Finally, I kind of went over this before, but the sharpness on this thing is amazing. You can crop in on the 4K image and there is still a lot of detail. It also has really good colors. They're not oversaturated and they're perfect for grading, or if you'd rather just put them up as is, you can, and there's so many profiles like vivid and even flat and log that you can choose exactly how you want your footage to look depending on your workflow, depending on what you want the footage for, whether it's just straight from camera to done or it's camera to color correction, color grading, and then done. So you have these options, and either way, you're not going to be disappointed with the Evo. Next up is, well, about the drone itself. So the first thing I noticed when I took this thing off was that it is quiet. It has some really large blades, I mean scary large blades for the size of this drone. But it's quiet, and it has a much lower pitch coming from the Mavic Air, which had a really high pitched bumblebee, everyone looks at it sort of noise. I found this to be very, very helpful now that it's so quiet. It's just incredibly quiet. Even though it's a larger drone, it's just so much more quiet than the Mavic Pro or the Mavic Air. I'm not sure about the Mavic 2 Pro, but I know for a fact that it's a lot quieter than the Mavic Pro and the Mavic Air. And it's just really nice to have. The less people looking at you flying your drone, the better, in my opinion. Next up is the long battery life. So it's rated at around 30 minutes, and I'm getting around 25, which is really good. I have 2 batteries, so I have about an hour's flight time with them. and it's just really nice not to have to come down halfway through a flight just to change a battery. Now with 25 minutes, that is a lot, and then you get 2 or 3 batteries, you are set. It is really good, and they don't take long to charge either. The controller takes a little while, but the batteries themselves are done in less than an hour, and that's pretty good considering the amount of flight time you get from one charge. Next up is that this thing is just really fast. I was really surprised. Like, if I'm getting shots of moving vehicles, you can do it, and I was getting a speed up to 80 kilometers an hour yesterday. And yes, it was windy and I had a tailwind at the time, but still, that is really fast, especially for a consumer drone. 80 kilometers an hour. I was keeping up with the cars. I'll put that footage up here now just so you can see, because it was pretty crazy, and I was impressed that I could actually keep up with cars on the highway. Next up is that with these orange colors that the Autel Evo comes in, it's really easy to spot in the air. Like, it's not too noticeable if you're not looking for it, but when you do want to see it, you don't know, maybe you lose sight of it or whatever, it's really easy to spot once you start looking for it in the area, just because it's such a bright orange color. Now, it's not quite as portable as my Mavic Air was, but I was willing to take that sacrifice for the improved quality, as well as just the gimbal maneuverability, which is something that I'm really impressed with. There's not as many gimbal limits, it can go further, and you're not going to get as many jerky movements from it as with something like the Mavic Air that just doesn't have the mechanical limit. And I'm really impressed with, well, I hardly ever have any issues where the gimbal jerks or anything, and it's really nice. Now, last up is maneuverability, and I know this may sound weird, but it's actually really fun to use. It's quite agile for its size, and you can get some pretty crazy shots with it. It's a lot more powerful than smaller drones, and you can get through the wind a lot easier, and I don't find it blowing around as much. It just seems to be just very smooth, and it's very good if you're trying to get cinematic footage, which most of us are doing if we're flying a drone. Okay, so now to end things off here, let's go over that controller, because that is, well, the thing that you're going to be using the most of the time when you're flying the drone. So the first thing that I noticed that I really liked about it is the screen on the controller, and I never thought that I would actually use it that much. I never thought that it would be that important to me, but now that I have it, I don't think I could go back to not having it. It's just so helpful not having to bring your phone and just being able to pull out the drone, turn on the controller, and you're good to fly. You're up in about 10 seconds and you're good to go. There's no problems with your phone disconnecting. You don't have to worry about the brightness of your phone. It's a nice OLED panel and it looks really good even in sunlight. So I'm really happy with that, and at this point, like I said, I don't think I could go back to not having a screen to view my footage straight from the controller. Next up is the control sticks and the size of the controller itself. It's just much more, it feels more substantial than a lot of DJI controllers, and I'm not saying that that's really a good thing because it's supposed to be portable, but at the same time when you are flying it, I just feel like I have a lot more grip on it. The thumbsticks are larger, and you can just really feel like you're in control of the drone at all times. You're not feeling like you're going to drop it. If you have bigger hands, you're going to really appreciate this, and if you have smaller hands, I think you can still get by with it pretty easily. It just feels really good and substantial in the hand. And to finish things off, I just like the fact that it has the haptics. Like when you're getting into something where it thinks it's about to hit something, you get the vibration. It feels really good, and whenever you hit limits or anything, or it needs to tell you something, you feel the vibration as well as the sound. And just having that just makes you feel, it just adds a layer. That it adds another layer of safety and just a feeling of control over your drone, knowing that it's going to alert you if it thinks something is wrong, if your battery's low and you're not paying attention. Just a little jolt to get you, to make sure that you know that it's time to land or time to get it out of that area. So with all that out of the way, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is part 2 of my Autel Evo review. Like I said, if you missed the first part, I went over what I did not like about the Autel Evo. You can find it here. This is part 2, what I do like. And part 3 will be what I think they should improve upon for future versions of the Autel Evo and what I can see in the future, as well as some final thoughts on whether or not you should buy this. In the end, I'm going to put all these videos together into one conclusive, short, and to the point video. Stay tuned for all of that. If you're into anything drone, camera, tech related, consider subscribing. Leave a like if you liked it. Leave a thumbs down if you really didn't like it. And comments down below for video ideas or just general feedback. Or if you want to talk, because I'm always up for a good chat. So with all that out of the way, stay tuned for the next video and take care everyone. Bye.